it was a thing. And so it was like, oh, got it. That's what I am. I'm gay. Okay.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Wake Up People. This is real people talking about real social issues. Today we have Liesbeth. Liesbeth is a middle school teacher, health and fitness coach, mindset coach, podcast host, and mom of 2 girls. She loves spending time outdoors and singing her heart out. She starts her days with mindset strategies to keep her energy vibration high because she never wants to go back to the person who lost herself in marriage and having kids. So welcome.
Thanks.
So why don't you start from the beginning of your journey? It's clear you have accomplished a lot and have become a role model for many people. Where did this journey start for you?
I would say the journey in more the side of being like a role model and doing the coaching and all that really started coming out of when I was a surrogate. The hormones really affected me, and I had pretty bad depression and anxiety. And leading up to that, I did not do self-care strategies. I mostly poured myself into my family, into my job. I was one of those that was like, I can do everything for everything. And I loved taking care of people, but I didn't take the time to take care of myself. So once depression and anxiety hit, I didn't know what to do. And it got to a point where I was like, I have to do something. And a colleague told me about a self-compassion class that she had taken. And it turned out the same teacher was going to offer the class out of her home near me. And so that was the start. I took a self-compassion class. We read the book by Kristen Neff and just learned some strategies that helped me like pull out of that.
Okay, so for those of people who don't know, myself included, I've never heard of a self-compassion course. Do you want to kind of like explain what that is?
I had never heard of it before I took it either. But basically, we were just a small group of people who were all struggling internally. And the strategies we learned were types of meditation. So we did walking meditations. We did like regular seated meditations. We had assignments that we had to do each week. And a lot of it had to do with like affirmations, like just building your belief in yourself that you are worthy of love and you are enough, and like just building that belief and having self-compassion. So like when you mess up or when you get angry or you have different emotions, like being able to tell yourself, you know what, it's okay, I'm human, and like be able to move on from that.
So teaching yourself to love yourself, essentially. Yeah. Well, that's really amazing. And I'm glad that worked out for you. To get you through that, it's so hard to go through those things. I have depression myself, so I know it's not the same for everyone, but I can relate to the experience.
Yeah. Prior to that, you think like before you've experienced it, you think you understand what depression is, but you don't. Like I did not before that. And then I was like, okay. Like
true. Yeah. Being on the outside perspective, you think you understand what it is, but once you really experience it, yeah. You mentioned you came out in college. What led you to coming out, and how did you start that process, and how long had you been battling with that?
I would say that I was pretty naive and oblivious when I was younger. So like in middle school, I just wanted to be like everyone else. So I just did what everyone else did. I had like all, Jonathan Taylor Thomas all over my wall. And my friends called me Boy Crazy Beth because I went by Beth back then. But once I started actually dating, that's when it was kind of like something different about me. And so once I got into an environment, I went to a public college. There were like the little pink triangles on professors' doors. There was like clubs, and it was a thing. And so it was like, oh, got it. That's what I am. I'm gay. Okay. And so being in that free environment, it just made it so that I could just be myself, be out, and be accepted, which was really great. And my family accepted me. So I didn't really have a struggle that way. And then moving on from that, it's just I've kind of taken on the idea that if I'm just my authentic self and I act like I have something to hide or something that people shouldn't know about me. And I just like let it out to the world. Like, this is who I am. Like, of course. Then people are like, oh yeah, nothing's wrong with that. Like they just respond to that energy. Like
That's
I moved
really
to small town Kansas for a little while, and it was just out and obvious to everyone. So it was just like they were like, oh yeah, okay.
like, that's really good though. That's like, it's really good to hear that you had such an accepting experience, because not everyone gets to experience that. What is some advice you could share to someone that is struggling to come out, if you feel comfortable sharing advice to someone?
Yeah, I would say most important is knowing and telling yourself, using self-compassion, and saying
Yeah.
like, I am enough the way I am. Like there's nothing wrong with me, and building that belief in yourself, and then telling the people that are closest to you, and knowing that love prevails. So even though my parents were accepting, they still like had their hesitations and didn't understand. And like my dad at first, like when I was getting married the first time, he was like, well, I support you, but I don't believe it's a real marriage. And then he's like, I don't believe you should have kids. And now he loves his grandkids. He loves them. So like time and love, I feel like heals things.
It's true, and sometimes it just takes people a little bit of time to kind of, it shouldn't, but to accept things. And it's really amazing that he overcame that, and that he loves your children and everything. Like,
Yeah.
beautiful. So you talked about being a surrogate. Did you want to kind of share more about that and that experience? I think that's really interesting, and I don't think I know anyone who's a surrogate, so that's amazing.
Yeah, like in my marriage that is ended now, who I had my two kids with, my ex was a surrogate first. So I was like the partner of a surrogate and witnessed it that way. And actually twice for two different families. And so the second family, we really got to know them. They visited and we talked on Zoom all the time. And they were just such a beautiful family that when we had decided we were done having kids, so each of us had one child, but I loved my pregnancy, so I wanted to be pregnant again, but we didn't want more children. And so that's why when they were like in the hospital, they were like, well, we're going to apply for a surrogate again. And we're like, well, actually, I could be your surrogate. And so I was the surrogate for their second child, and my ex was the surrogate for their first child.
Oh, that's really incredible. So what was that?
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Well, it was very different because I had to use IVF to get pregnant. And so that is where the whole hormone issue came in. The first type of hormone I was on, the format that it was, made me seriously depressed, like borderline, like wanting to end my life. And so we talked to the nurse and we're like, something's not right. And they switched the version. And then it was a little better. I still felt like I had that cloud in my head of like negative thoughts never stopping, but at least it was like more manageable. And so for me, the experience was like, okay, I'm never going to be pregnant again.
Yeah.
However, the moment at the birth when that family sees their baby, like you can't explain that. You have to witness it. And it's like, wow. And like now they have a Facebook page and I get to see the kids growing, and it's like I know that like they couldn't have had that family without me. And so even though it was like one of the hardest things I've ever done, I've grown so much since that moment because I had to. Like it brought me to like that place where you're like, you're either going to change and grow from this or you're going to end from this. And so I attribute all of who I am right now from the growth that I had to do from that experience. And I'm so glad I could give them that gift.
Oh, that's incredible. You honestly gave me chills when you said that. I was like, oh, like that must have been such a rewarding experience, like for yourself and the family, to give them something that they couldn't have had without you. Like, it's amazing. So you mentioned you served in the Peace Corps. Did you want to kind of elaborate on that and what you did?
Yeah, when I was in college, I would say that I was always a happy kid and pretty oblivious to a lot of things. Like I said, I didn't even realize I was gay for a long time, just going about my own life, right? And so I wasn't very self-reflective. And at the end of college, I took this class called Risk Taking and Change. And it was the first time I've ever been asked to really look at my own beliefs and figure out, well, where did that come from? And do I really believe that? Or did I just inherit that belief?
Yeah.
And from that experience, I had actually been engaged to someone in college, and I ended the engagement and decided to apply for the Peace Corps. And when in my application, I said, I want to go to a place that has completely opposite culture from me, different beliefs, so that I have to see my beliefs, because it's not going to be mirrored in everyone around me. And then I will know what my beliefs are and can work with them. And so that's what happened. I went to Thailand, and it is completely different than here. And it was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, but also the most rewarding. Also one of those moments, those pivotal moments of growth and change. And like the first time that I became a more reflective human.
What were some of the things that you did while you were there?
I was in an education program, since that's what I studied in college, was to be a teacher. And so I worked with an elementary school teacher 2 days a week and a high school teacher 2 days a week, and the educational supervisor on the last day. And that's when we would go out to the really remote villages, and I would teach lessons with her to those schools that don't usually get foreign volunteers in to teach. And then the side projects that we had were around HIV/AIDS education, because there was a lot of stigma in the country on that. A lot of the, like, when a child would get HIV/AIDS, they would be sent to like a temple, where away from the family and rejected from the family. So it was really about like, you don't get AIDS by just being next to someone who has AIDS, and like teaching the youth. And it was really cool because the project we did worked with the high schoolers, and then they led a camp with the middle schoolers. So it was all about training educators, like training them to be leaders, because the youth listen to the youth better.
Wow. You've done a lot of incredible things. I really admire you. Like, it's really inspirational. No, seriously, like, that's incredible. You're also a fitness coach. So do you want to elaborate on that and some of the things that you do?
Yeah, so after the depression and anxiety and the self-compassion class, another thing that happened in the surrogacy is that the baby stayed sideways and they could not turn her. And so I ended up having to have a C-section. And then they overdosed me on morphine. And so I had to go to the ICU afterwards for 24 hours, and had this thing that, like, when I stopped breathing, it would beep. So I would wake up and start breathing again. But because they did that, they couldn't give me any more narcotics. So I had to heal from the C-section on only ibuprofen. And the people in the ICU don't normally deal with people right after birth. So they didn't do the things you normally do. So by the time I got moved down to the ward for after birth, they had assumed these things would happen. So at one point, a nurse realized I'd never been asked to get up to move. And so the recovery was really hard. And I felt like, at that point, I felt like my body was broken. My marriage had fallen apart at that time. So like emotionally, mentally, I was just broken in every way. And like, I broke into tears all the time. And I remember this moment where I'm like on the floor and I'd broken into tears, and my little 3-year-old comes over to me and like puts her hand on me and was like, "It's gonna be okay, mommy." And I was like, I could like see myself in her eyes, and I was like, no,
Wow.
this is not who I am. This is not who I am. And I made a promise to myself. I was like, I am rebuilding myself physically, mentally, and emotionally. And that's like, so basically after birth, you have to like reconnect those muscles, especially a C-section. Yeah. So I was like talking to the doctors, like, okay, well, what support do you have for me? And it just wasn't coming in the time period I wanted. So I found a physical therapist to work with me. It was like a semi-private class, and I just had to pay for it on my own, because I was like, no, I'm going to heal correctly. And then once I felt here's this funny side story with that one. So the exercise she taught us to do was to breathe in and release all of our muscles, and then breathe out and pull them all in. And so we had to do that for 5 minutes at least every day. And so I'd lay in my bed and I would do these things, and then I'd go about the rest of my day. And after a couple of weeks, I felt so chill. And like it was almost like life had slowed down, because before then I felt like life was like this and I was trying to keep up. But all of a sudden it was like, I was like, what is going on with me? And then I like put 2 and 2 together and was like, I'm meditating now. Like, I've meditated daily and this is the effect it has. And so that was like the beginning of like, okay, this is staying in my wheelhouse. I am meditating every day because I could respond to things. I wasn't reacting. Like, it felt like, I don't know, it was a total shift in my whole mental, visual life. And so from then, I like my friend Carrie, who I went to Girl Scout camp with and worked at Girl Scout camp with. She was a health and fitness coach, and she had been asking me to join her groups. And finally, I was like, yes, I want to join. And so January, I joined. Normal time to like start a fitness journey, right? January. And I loved it. It was like 30-minute workouts you could do from your home every day. And like they gave a meal plan and they told me what I was supposed to eat each day. And it was like choices. So it was like this many greens, this many of your proteins, this many of your, so it was just really easy to count. And I followed that and drank the superfood shake. And after a couple of weeks, I felt like a completely different person. And after doing multiple challenge groups and changing workout programs that I was doing, like people around me were like, what are you doing? You're so happy now. And so they started asking me, like, I was like, oh, I'm doing this. And so then she set me up as a coach. And that's how it kind of all started. And the first time that someone said to me, I can feel my muscles again. And I was like, that's what happened. Like, you feel like once you work out for a couple of weeks, like you start to actually like feel a connection to all your muscles and your posture's better. And you just, I don't know, it's like this feeling. And like, I was like, yes, that's how I felt when I started. And I was like, okay, I'm going to help more people feel this.
That's incredible. I know I've said that a lot about you, but everything you've said is really amazing. Like, so why don't you talk about your role as a teacher? Because you're also a teacher.
Yeah. So I've been a middle school teacher at multiple schools for a long time. I absolutely love that age group because they're not jaded by the world yet, but they can have full conversations and they're so interested in things. And I really love, I've taught in public schools, but I really love Montessori because it's like our program, we have bees and we have a farm and like I might teach a cheese making class to teach them chemistry. And
That's
so
really cool.
yeah, and in the bees class, they'll learn botany or zoology. And like, so it's very project based and we get these long periods of time. And when it's not COVID, we actually have access to vehicles and can take them to on trips to visit. Like for my cheese making class, we went to all of the different cheese makers in our area and got to taste their cheeses. Like it's just so fun. And I get to be the drama teacher there too. So I run a play every year. And it's a job where I don't have to do the same thing. So when I taught in public school, I was like a writing teacher for a while. And it was 7 hours of teaching the same class in a row. And they wouldn't let me teach reading with it. It was only writing. It was like, I'm like, I'm going to die. Like, I can't do this every day. So now I get to teach writing and reading and English and science and drama and integrate it all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you sound like you have a very creative mind. So just doing the writing would have been, hurtful to you because I definitely can tell that you're like one of those people where your mind's like constantly going in like a really positive way. So you're always creating and kind of, yeah. So in your life, you talked about having so many roles. So fitness coach, teacher, mother. So how do you find a balance in all of that?
Yeah. What's crazy is, before I started doing the fitness groups, I would get home from work and I would be so exhausted. And I would like immediately change into pajamas when I got home. I got out of work clothes and in pajamas because I was not comfortable in my clothes. And I would try to convince my little kids to be like, you want to play the sleeping game, right? And I would just like lay there and have them put me to bed. And then they'd like turn the light on and be like, wake up time. And I'm like, okay, now it's nap time. Because I just wanted to lay there. I had no energy. And once I started working out every day and eating better and having that superfood shake that had like these nutrients that my body really needed, it was like my energy compounded. And so now I do way more than I used to do in the same amount of time. I could keep adding things because it's like you get more efficient at it and you have more energy and everything's fulfilling. Because I don't know whoever said this first, but you're passionate about it, it doesn't feel like work. And so I'm super passionate about my middle schoolers and teaching them. I'm super passionate about my mindset clients and my challenger clients. And so like, it doesn't feel like work. It energizes me.
That's amazing. So that's kind of the kind of advice you would give someone is to make sure that they have things in their lives that they're really passionate about in order to stay balanced.
And self-care. You have to put yourself first. I talk to so many women online who are like, I have to put myself into my kids. Like I have to do everything for my kids. And it was like, I can do so much more now for my kids when I take a half an hour to work out in the morning. Like it's a half an hour for you, and then making better choices with your food. Like it makes all the difference.
It does make a lot of sense, because it's hard if you're not taking care of yourself to be the person you want to be for that kind of thing.
Yeah, Rachel Hollis, I think it was, has this really great analogy of like, if you were a pitcher of water and you just kept pouring yourself out to people, you would eventually empty out. But if you have the pitcher sitting there and you have water constantly pouring into it, what's going to happen? It's going to overflow and it's going to go out to everyone. So everyone's going to get water because you're constantly filling your pitcher.
I love that analogy. I've never heard of it before. That's great. So I think we've gone over a lot, and it would be a good time to kind of end the conversation. But I would like to give you this opportunity to kind of share some places that people can connect with you or join your fitness program.
Yeah, all right.
Share that.
I'm definitely on Instagram, so you can find me on Instagram. Somewhat recently, I started doing a podcast. So I would love if you listen to my podcast and spread it around, because it has a very small audience right now. But it's basically called This Impossible Life. And that is based off of my team name, which is I'm Possible. So taking the word impossible and changing it to I'm Possible. And so if you reach out to me on Instagram, that's where we can talk more about if you want just mindset coaching, or if you want the whole shebang, mindset coaching with workouts and nutrition support.
Oh, I really like the name of that. That's really clever.
Thanks. It took me a while to get to it, but it came and it fits.
Okay, well, thanks again for coming. That was really inspirational, and I feel like I got a lot out of this interview. I hope other people do. You clearly live like a really amazing life, so it's really nice that you share that through your podcast and through being a fitness coach and a teacher. Clearly offer a lot to people. So
I try. That's what I try to do. Serve the universe, because whatever you put out in the universe comes back at you.